You're listening to Short Inspirations from Ralph, Safe in God's Love, Part 3. In this series we've been looking at the greatness of our God and that He's always with us, He never leaves us. And the problem that we face is we don't see that at times. We get bogged down in our own lives. If we have the peace of Christ that passes understanding, as Paul calls it, then the question is, what would our lives look like if we had that peace and we had the absolute conviction that because of God's character and competence, this world would be a perfectly safe place to be? Firstly, we would have declining anxiety. A bit like Jesus in the boat during a storm who was able to sleep. That amazes me still. I sleep better when I'm not anxious, and I'm sure you would too. I have seen devastating things that have happened to people and families over the years, and some families are able to cope with it very well. Other families fall to pieces. Marriages fall to pieces. Their lives are wrecked. The difference is looking to this great God, like that massive Kodiak bear that I talked about in episode 1, being right there with us. And if we know that, our anxiety levels are lower. Secondly, we would be unhurried people. Being unhurried is actually a state of heart. We can be busy but not in this hurry thing, hurry sickness. Have a listen to an episode or two on that on Spotify. I know that Jesus wasn't hurried because his great friend Lazarus had died, and you'd think that normally a person like Jesus would go there straight away, but he delayed for 2 days. I think he was trying to teach us something. Thirdly, what would it look like if we had absolute trust in God? We would not be defeated by guilt, because we tend to hold on to guilt, and none of us are exempt. But we can relax. We can know that our God is our justification. Fourthly, we would trust God enough to risk obeying Him. This is an interesting one, because sometimes in our inner world we can think, well, if I give my whole life to God, totally, 100%, what will He do with it? Can I trust Him enough? Will He send me off to the middle of a dark country somewhere as a missionary? Would He want me to do something that I don't want to do? And so many of us can keep part of our lives to ourselves. You can have this and this and this God, but not this. Fifthly, we would increasingly respect God's power. The Bible calls it the fear of God. The fear of God. I recall a well-known American minister being asked to go and visit in a prison a fallen televangelist. And he asked this televangelist, when did you stop loving Christ? When did that happen? This televangelist looked at him and said, I never stopped loving Christ. It's just that I stopped fearing Him. That's incredible. He'd stopped fearing Him. We're not talking about fear that leads to death. We're talking about respecting the awesome power of our God. Remember, He will always be with you. He will never leave you, even to the end of the age. God bless you.